And we're back with another episode of the Lakers Fast Break podcast. It's Gerald Glassford coming right back at you here from Lakers Fast Break, Pop Culture Cosmos, where we cover the latest news and trends in pop culture each and every week, twice a week, wherever you get your podcasts. On this week's episode, the guys from the Super BS Games cast and I talk about the death of Concord, the latest debacle by PlayStation as their live service game just absolutely bit the dust. We give a long dissertation on the reasons why it happened, the ramifications of it, and if we can learn some lessons from it, the video game industry can going forward. Plus, we talk about Astrobot and more. So go ahead and check it out today, the Pop Culture Cosmos, wherever you get your podcasts and on radio stations worldwide. But also as well, Inside Sports, Fantasy Football. Hopefully you did well this weekend. I know I did. 2 for 2 with my guys as far as my teams are concerned. Hopefully you did well. I know Joe's Steelers did well. They're riding high, undefeated. Despite his concerns regarding Fields, you can't argue with the success. At the end of the day, 3-0 is 3-0. And not only on top of that, for entertainment purposes only, Xbox has been the recipient of some good love from Joey's picks there, as he says. So I always love it when he calls you Joey. But go ahead and check out us later this weekend.
OGs call me Joey. All my friends
absolutely
growing up, all my mom's friends growing up called me Joey. There's a connection with
the Australians, the Aussies. They love calling you Joey.
There's always been a connection with the Aussies. I don't know what it is. It was even before I was on the show. There's something about Australians and me that click. I don't know what it is. I've never been able to figure it out.
But anyways, Joe hit it right on the money again for Xbox.
Well, look, I'm sorry to say this. Well, I'm not sorry, but when you have been observing a lot of these teams for as long as I have, and when I say observe, I'm talking the AFC North via AFC Central teams. You might as well be asking me my kid's birthday and blood type and all that stuff. I just know. I know these teams like I know my own smell.
Okay.
I was watching the other day. Sorry,
well, there you go. Absolutely. So please check out Inside Sports Fantasy Football coming up later this week as we cover week 4 in the NFL already. And it is usually as week 4 happens with our show, it's the annual Is It Time to Panic episode. Always a fun episode that we'll do later this week as well. Plus, want to give a big shout out to our members. That's right, our members. We are still doing a great membership program that you can be part of. Please go ahead today for just $2.99 a month. You get emojis, you get badges, you get inside notes from me on when the show is going to come up. I'm trying to formulate some other things that I can give as little perks and bonuses for the members that are out there, including Samir, JSJ, Kurt, Darren, Sports Baby, Richard, Bloodout, and of course, Xbox. So go ahead, like, subscribe, follow the show, whatever you can do to support us, and also become a member today. It's just $2.99 a month right there on YouTube. But also, big shout out to Clutch Talk and Lakers Corner, governed by our own good friend, John Costa. Go ahead and check out his great channels. Like and subscribe there. Also as well, Empire Jeff TV, who's been covering a lot of the Dodgers lately. He always needs your love and support. Lakers in 5, John McCallion channel. He's been doing some good videos lately as well. Also as well, the Lakerholics crew. Jamie Sweet, who was on with us over the weekend. His 5 Things articles is coming on the way. Plus also Laker Tom is there. And Michael Heinrich at Lakerholics.com. Go ahead and support all those great guys out there. And, of course, Daniel Berry Sports Highlights. Yo! Please support all those great channels, all those great places, all those great websites, including our friend Stone Hansen at Report_Court. And if you do so, plus you like and subscribe with us, we are trying to get back over the 1,800 mark, and we need your help in doing so. So if there's anybody out there that hasn't yet subscribed, please do so, because you'll get the latest notifications if you hit, you subscribe, you hit that bell, you do all the good stuff that YouTube asks you to do. You get the latest notifications on when we go live on the air with the latest Lakers Fast Break podcast. Well, Joe and I are back after taking a day off because we are getting closer and closer to training camp for the Los Angeles Lakers. It's right around the corner. About a week away from Picture Day, or in the case of the Lakers, Family Picture Day, coming up here in just about a week's time. And then on the 1st, 8 days from now, it is the start of training camp. And just 3 days after that, it's the first exhibition game, the first of 2 in Palm Springs, right there for the Lakers. So looking forward to that. Want to go ahead and make sure everybody knows that we are on today talking about, it's kind of a two-parter. So today we often, get talked about as being, you guys are too real, you guys are too negative, blah, 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 blah. Well, today's episode is going to be very positive. We're not going to go ahead and give the downside of things, our realistic views. We're going to say, what if everything worked out for the Lakers at the beginning of the season and it just flowed from there? What if everything goes right for the Lakers and they get off to a fantastic start? What has to happen? What has to work? And also, how would they be able to sustain it? We'll talk about that on today's show, because tomorrow's show is what happens when everything goes wrong. So here today to go ahead and discuss that with me is my good friend indeed. He is the mastermind behind Sinblades with a Y.com, and also as well, he is Oxide247 at LakersBall.com. It is Joe Soro, and Joe, that is the theme for today. So we're going to try and keep it lighter, more positive today. We have people in the chat that come by, like Juan. He's always very positive about the Lakers. So let's say the Lakers tap into that positivity and everything goes right. First up, exactly what would have to go right in order for the Lakers to be at or near the top of the Western Conference to start off the season?
They'd probably have to start 20-5.
Yeah, something like that.
So the first 25 games, they would have to be dominant. They'd have to impose their will and their ability on their opponents. A lot of those wins would be on the road in the Midwest. I don't know why they call it Midwest. Should be Mideast, wouldn't it? But it was probably Midwest back when the states were starting to come together. But for them to perform at a 20-5 record, I think they would need a trade before the season, which isn't something that happens because there's a deficiency in rebounding. Unless JJ Redick's, system creates a free-for-all rebounding frenzy from all 5 players, or let's say all 4 players instead of LeBron, and then they're able to sustain it for, let's say, 25 games. That would be something that would work. Does this team have the energy to do that? That's the question. They are young. I mean, D'Lo is young, Reeves is young, Rui's young, AD is still somewhat young. Can he inspire guys like Jackson Hayes to rebound? Can he inspire someone like Reddish to stay focused long enough to play good man-on-man defense as well as get the rebounds? Rebounds is what's going to be the first thing I pay attention to at the beginning of the year. Rebounds have to be solved. How? We need to find out once JJ Redick starts to coach, because we know the talent already. Can he tap into them mentally to make them and to put them in positions where they can best be able to get rebounds on a consistent basis?
Once again, it is the Lakers Fast Break. It is a snack pack out there. Go ahead and make sure you enjoy some snacks with us right here at the Lakers Fast Break. It is Gerald Glassford along with Joe Sorrell. I will, at the end of the show, take, instead of Joe having a drink, I will have a drink of the new Lakers Prime hydration drink. So I will grab it from the fridge and actually live on the air let you know how it is. So we'll go ahead and do that.
That's not a drink.
It says hydration drink, so you tell me. I'll find out. So
we're talking about a drink, not
I know.
12-year-old's drink.
Yeah, I know. And I was just trying to put it in there, but
I'm gonna have iced tea.
Okay.
With no sugar.
Okay. Well, go for it.
Mm.
But again, a lot has to go right for the Lakers to go ahead and get to that 20-5 mark. They have to continue the great shooting that they had from those three individuals that they had last year. Austin Reeves, I would think also as well, has to have an early hot streak to start the season. And the bench, you would have to find some consistent firepower coming off the bench from Max Christie or Dalton Connect. That, I think, has to be paramount. The Lakers, when they go to the bench, have to find reliable sources of points, which they don't have right now. Very questionable. But if it goes right, Joe, and it goes right early on, they're gonna find someone that's going to come off the bench to be really, really consistent for
them. Yeah.
I'm just saying, if for it to go all right, they're going to have to find someone on someone on the bench will step up, like everybody is hoping.
Max Christie's going to have to step up. Dalton Connect is a rookie. I'm not going to throw him into the fire and expect him to be all world, but maybe shots here and there, sure. Jackson Hayes is going to have to be much better than he ever has been to cover for AD. Who else? I think that's it.
That's the only two I could think that really.
I think that's it. That's it in terms of people we expect or need to expect to play well. That's the 8-man rotation right there. That's the positions that you need backups for. It's pretty scary, folks. It's pretty scary. I'm sorry, I shouldn't say that. Gabe Vincent could play a factor, but I'm bracing myself on Miami.
He is the only one on the bench, I think, that can score outside of Dalton Connect and Max Christie that could average above 10 points a season off the bench. If they get that kind of firepower off the bench, if those three guys are averaging 10 points each off the bench.
I don't think scoring is going to be the issue here. Can these guys rebound? I'm talking about the team. If this team does not rebound, it won't matter how well they shoot and how well LeBron and AD play.
Well, let's say they find the rebounding. Let's say they become.
Yeah, then it changes everything.
Yeah. Let's say they get to mid. Let's say they're middle of the pack.
Where were they last year? 26th?
I think 28th.
Was it 28th? Okay.
Yeah.
If they can get to 15, they're probably going to win 4 or 5 more games.
They were one of the worst as far as on the defensive and offensive ends.
So and I'm surprised. I guess I shouldn't have been surprised that they were going to have issues rebounding. But then again, your coach put these guys in some of the worst spots you can be in, as well as the fact that these guys aren't. Rebounding is about want. It's about energy. And it has to be something not only physical but mental. Can you handle mentally and physically through an 82-game season to pound, ground, and rebound? That's going to be the question. There is no more room to decide on what other way you can do it. The Lakers have capped themselves. They cannot do anything else talent-wise. Can you convince your players to go up another level and to do something that's uncomfortable. Rebounding is uncomfortable. Banging down low is uncomfortable. And then on top of that, how are you going to cover the Jokic's, the Sabonises, the Wembanyamas, the Chet Holmgrens, the Hartensteins, the Joel Embiids? The big man has come back, folks. The big man has won the last 4 MVPs. And one of those big men just got some help. So this is the part you have to think about. Did you get better this year to compete with teams that got better that will likely be title contenders? It doesn't matter if it's Philly in the East, because you have to win the championship beating someone in the East.
I'll say this, Joe. I mean, at least the thing is, they need to get off to a good start. They do, and the only thing I can say is some of these teams will be feeling themselves out as far as working things out, new players, new places, trying to work out team chemistry. The one and only thing that I could see that could work out and would be a good reason why the Lakers would get off to a good start, Joe, is because the fact that they are familiar with each other. The basic outside of connect, the basic top 8-9 players, they were there before. They've been there now for at least a season, and in some cases even longer, as far as since the trade deadline 2 seasons ago. So they do have a familiarity with each other. That may give them an early advantage over other teams, Joe. And if that's the case, that I see as being one of the key reasons they could get off to a good start, or they may.
We did want them to bring everyone back and have continuity, but we expected 2 or 3 transactions in terms of bringing in deficiencies, but they didn't do that. That's the issue with this season, is they didn't improve in the areas they really needed to improve. They're putting AD in a spot to fail. After having a season where he practically played almost every game, you brought him nothing. You brought him no help. And if you are to get him help between now and February, you're going to have to mortgage the future again. A future that you've already said you have to start training for. You have to start developing people. This is the last leaders to train anything.
Again, we're talking about if it all goes right. Tomorrow's show, it'll be all about what if it goes wrong. But for today, what if it happens, if it does go right, and it goes right early for the Los Angeles Lakers? They could take that momentum afar. I don't know how far, because even the most optimistic of, well, I guess except for Juan, because Juan thinks they'll win the title. At least he says in the chat. I just think they could really, if things go well, Joe, with LeBron and AD playing still at a peak level with the kind of support that they would hope to get from Rui, D'Lo, Austin, Dalton, Max, with that lineup thrown out there, the realistic Gerald says that scares nobody, but let's go with the optimistic side. Let's say that lineup does actually produce well numbers wise, and they do get off to a good start. If they stay healthy, they can find themselves as being one of the surprise teams in the Western Conference, show.
Would they be a surprise team?
I think so, because they're a team that's right now picked 11th in the Western Conference in most betting cycles.
Has the NBA had surprise teams in the last few years, do you believe?
There's usually 1 or 2 every year. The Sacramento Kings, 2 years ago, they were a surprise team. This year, last season, I think Oklahoma City's rise to the very top of the Western Conference was a surprise to many. So I think Houston's rise to even being a 500 team, I think, was a surprise to many. So I think there is usually one or two surprise teams coming every year. Although, again, in a loaded Western Conference, I will admit it's going to be harder and harder to do.
The beginning of the year, they have a favorite, and we're going to go over the schedule here before the season starts. So I'm not going to delve into that too much, but I will give it. Let's give it a look-see a little bit. We discussed that they're starting the Midwest road trip, the earliest I can remember in years. They're going to be, after they get to Phoenix, Monday, the 28th of October. After that, they're going to Cleveland, Toronto, Detroit, and Memphis. That's going to be an interesting trip. Cleveland is good. Toronto is Detroit is Memphis, are they going to be ready to go and start playing the way they're supposed to play with the talent that they have? It's going to be pretty interesting to see. Before then, though, they're going to start the season against Minnesota, and then they have a few days off before they play Phoenix and then Sacramento on back-to-back nights. I can honestly say that I think they should start the first 3 games 2-1 if they do things right.
Let's say they get off to a 10-3 start. And they start feeling the momentum, because you and I've seen it a lot of times in the league, especially during the regular season. Momentum does play a key factor, and sometimes teams play well above their normal, whatever line that you put for them. Sometimes teams, just based off of momentum, they get on a roll and they play well above what they're expected to do. That could happen for the Lakers, but like you said, everything has to work out just right.
If they go 10-3, I'm curious to see that they probably come back from that 5-game road trip to the Midwest 4-1. And then if they win 2 out of the first 3 of the season, they're looking at 6-2 before they come home for a 3-game stretch to play Philly, Toronto, and Memphis. And then they go back on the road to face San Antonio and New Orleans. So if they end up 6-2 in the first 8 games, that means they'd have to finish the next 5 games 4-1, 3 at home and then 2 on the road. So let's say they win all their home games and then they lose one of the road games to San Antonio or New Orleans. I'd say New Orleans because it's the back end of a back-to-back on a Saturday, and usually the Lakers don't play well on Saturdays.
Once again, it is the Lakers Fast Break. It is Joe Soro along with me, Joe Glassford. Thanks again for listening. Truly appreciate it. We're talking about what if everything goes right for the Los Angeles Lakers. So, Joe, let me ask you this. Let's say they do get 4 players shooting 40% from 3 early on in the season. Let's say they do get enough rebounding to hit, let's say, 15th. Or 13 to 15th as far as the best rebounding team in the league on both the offensive and the defensive end. Let's say they played team defense at around maybe a 12th, 13th place position, and an offense around, let's say, in the top, somewhere in the top 8. That overall, that would make them a pretty darn good team, and that should correlate to a really good start. How good of a start do you think that could be for the Lakers?
What was the question again?
Okay, let's say everything falls into place. How good of a start do you think that could be for the Lakers? You said 20-5.
We'll say 20-5, yeah.
Okay, that would place them where in your mind? Second or third in the Western
they'd be number 1.
Okay.
Yeah, they'd be in first place.
So there is a through line, but everything.
And that's pretty drastic. You're talking if we start 10-3, then they're gonna win 10 of the next 12 games too, on top of that, before the tournament comes. For them to knock everyone's socks off, for everything to go right, AD would have to play like an MVP. I'm talking 30 points a game. No, 25 points a game, 15 rebounds, 5 assists type games. Or I should say three blocks, sorry. You want everything to go right? AD has to be an MVP the first 25 games out the gate. I'm talking dominance. I'm talking tapping into the AD that should have been for the last decade. Because AD, based off his talents, has never ever shown the true MVP AD. He's just never done it.
Yeah, that's the problem. That's the thing. If he could get off to a really good start, if he could become the player and the MVP candidate, we still think he has the ability to do so, Joe, then I agree with you. The Lakers could get off to a good start and LeBron could still be one of the top 10 players in the game. That could translate into a hot start for the Lakers. And I feel that they need it. If this season is going to be anywhere near close to a success, Joe, they have to get off to a good start. They cannot, for the third year in a row, expect a large wave of wins near the end of the season just to bail them out.
KG, AD is better. He's a better skilled basketball player than KG. I know that sounds crazy because KG was good at the mid-range. He could play defense, 20, 10, and 5 pretty much his whole career. But I'd take KG over AD any day of the week. KG, had he not been in Minnesota, probably would have won multiple MVPs.
Okay.
And his focus in being and squeezing out his talent was better than what AD has done. I don't know who to compare AD to in terms of talent. He's been so successful, it's hard to degrade him. Guys won at every level. He's won at every level. But he's never individually cared, it seems like, to be the best.
Well, Eric, that's a good question, Eric. And I always, Eric always brings up good questions, Joe. Do they have 2 top 10 players throughout the year? I'm saying getting off to a good start, building that momentum. This show today is if everything went right, Eric, and they did have 2 top 10 players. Let's just say LeBron, they figure out a way, Joe. JJ comes up with a scheme as far as rotations are concerned that provides LeBron enough minutes to stay somewhat fresh, cut him down. Remember when they were talking about under Ham's system to get him under 30? Let's just say it goes down to 32 minutes a game, which I don't know if that's realistic enough, but that let's say it works out where the Lakers find a happy medium for LeBron and he's still able to thrive. He's still able to average 24, 7, and 7, let's say. AD is giving you monster MVP level numbers. That could put them squarely in the top. Maybe LeBron, you could put him like 10 to 15 at that point in time with those kind of numbers. But still, if those 2 are playing at that level, even later in the season, if they carry that momentum, it's a big if, and that falls into place. But you never know. If the Lakers can continue to, if they find success early in the season and they continue that type of attitude and winning and the type of mentality, Joe, throughout the rest of the season,
I need to understand, what do you mean by finding success? Where are they going to find it? In Rob Pelinka's office? In the drawers?
Joe, we're trying to think positive here. I'm saying
true, but I need some facts still. I need to know why I said AD would have to play like an MVP, like he never has before.
Yeah.
You have to
he would have to be in the top
you
5.
Can't just imagine all of a sudden.
No, I just said he would have to
things.
be one of the top 5 players in the game. LeBron would
I'm
still
not.
have to be somewhere.
No, not top 5. No, I'm talking MVP, like top 2, like MVP. Like he's got to be an MVP. They got to say after 25 games he's the MVP. Top 5 don't mean shit. And as far as being 2 top 10 players, absolutely not. LeBron gives up as much as he gives because of his defense.
Again, I'm not.
So now, if you want to talk positive, you say this: the Lakers, if everything goes right, means AD is a MVP or damn near MVP, and LeBron decides that rebounding matters, and he cannot loaf when he doesn't get a call. You tell me that, yes, there's a much better chance for the Lakers to come out the gate and hopefully finish the gate positively.
Okay.
There's got to be substance behind what we're saying.
That's what I'm trying to provide, but you're not allowing me to do it.
Well, you're saying AD needs to be a top 5, and
well, you're saying just said at near it. Near it is top 5.
Yeah, top 5's not enough.
Could be a number 1.
He's got to be damn near MVP. He's got to be the MVP after the first.
Well, that is damn near MVP. Top 5 player in the league is damn near MVP.
Top 5 is not going to work. He needs to be
damn near MVP in my books. So
no.
And then if LeBron could still, like you said,
we're not Gaylord Fockers here. Okay, we're not getting 12th place trophies. It's either 1 or 2, and LeBron has to rebound, and he has to play some.
Now you're just changing it, Joe, from damn near to 1 or 2.
Yeah, I said it already, 1 or 2.
Yeah, but you just said before damn near.
Yeah, 1 or 2.
Damn near is 1 through 5.
No.
Or 2 through 5.
No. 5th place doesn't mean anything.
Okay, well, to me, it's semantics that we're talking about here. But yes, if AD is at a near MVP-like level, and LeBron, like you said, finds the way to go ahead and take care of the boards a little bit better, start paying attention to
I got more.
A little bit more.
I got more. The Lakers should, if they are to come out and play well all year to solidify a legitimate playoff spot, that means Max Christie is a bona fide rotational player who's hitting his shots and playing very good defense. Dalton Connect is a top 5, let's say a first team all-rookie player. Okay? Austin Reeves handles the ball better and maybe beefed up during the offseason so he can rebound better.
He has to shoot close to 40%. 39, 40.
Okay, that's fine.
Can't give 34, 35.
Rui needs to be able to handle some pounding. So that means when he gets to the basket later in the season, especially in the playoffs, he needs to be making those shots when there's a lot of aggression towards him. What else? Jackson Hayes. Jackson Hayes needs to be able to run a pick and roll on a consistent basis like he was, but also be able to guard a pick and roll.
And be a defensive stopper.
Let's not get carried away. At least be able to cover a pick and roll on defense. He was doing well. He was doing well in terms of being the dive guy, but you need to also be the defensive guy on the dive when the other team's doing it. You can't get lost. Problem with Jackson Hayes is he gets lost. He forgets. It looks like
that's what I've been saying for quite a while. His defensive instincts have been suspect. So if he finds some defensive instincts for the Lakers, that could be a huge help and get minutes off the floor for AD. Or conceivably, you could play them together to see if that works, if he's that effective. So could help your rebounding there, Joe.
This show should have been called If.
Oh.
If.
Again, if everything goes well. That's the point of this scenario, because tomorrow's show will be if everything doesn't.
I think we've talked about that already enough. We'll wrap it up in a bow, but we'll go into more detail, I guess, at that point. But the if things go right, almost every player that's going to matter on this team is going to have to do things at a much higher level, or do things that we didn't expect them to do.
I agree with you there. And
That's a
that's
lot.
something.
It's a lot. It's a lot to expect.
And that's something that I think that the most optimistic of Lakers fans are counting on, is that they want to see through whatever it is that they've done and performed, that these players have done and performed before, thinking they will achieve that next step, even though that they have yet to, in many cases, realize that potential, if they have that potential within them. So again, Max Christie is a name that you and I have been all over the place on, as far as people saying one thing, people saying another. We get emails defending him. We get people emails and comments not defending him. Again, he signed the contract. He's here for 4 years unless they trade him. He's going to have to produce. The Lakers certainly have enough confidence in him. They feel he's going to be able to step up. I'm not going to say he's writing his job on it, but Pelinka thinks clearly that he has a lot of room to grow with his game. Whether or not he does is a question, but let's say it does happen and he does become the sixth man everybody out there has been hoping for, or even in the best of best case scenarios, that he becomes the starter and you can put Reeves as your sixth man off the bench. I know, Joe, but this is I did title the show "What If."
You should have called it Laker Tom's What Ifs.
I could have had that in mind as well. Yeah, you're right.
You should have had Laker Tom on the show.
Getting him on the show lately has been hard, because he's kind of grumbling about the Lakers. I sense that he is not happy with the lack of movement by Rob Pelinka, and I think he does. Even his normal optimism level is not as high as it was. That's what I'm sensing. Just maybe it's not true. Maybe it is. I know you go to Lakerholics.com and give him a shout out if you feel differently, or ask him about it. But yeah, from what I'm sensing and his comments and his text and seeing his comments out there in public is at Laker Tom, he's not getting the same good vibes for the Lakers as of yet. So I will say, if let's say the Lakers do get off to a good start, I think that can translate well and be able to go ahead. And also as well, I think injuries and health has to be a key, not only for the Lakers, but for the rest of the Western Conference, Joe. A couple key injuries somewhere else might help the Lakers out immensely, which is, think about it right now, Joe. I'll give you a second to think about which injury in the Western Conference do you think would be the most critical? I would say for me, it would be Jokic. There was one injury that took place in the Western Conference that would hurt the most to a Western Conference team.
Luka getting injured would destroy Dallas. Who else? Fox getting injured in Sacramento, they'd be done. Steph Curry getting hurt in Golden State, they'd be done. The league has thinned out. One star coming up lame is going to pretty much destroy any chance of them being competitive. I think Denver they don't have a lot of depth right now, but they have Jamal Murray and Porter Jr. and Aaron Gordon. They can hold the fort a little bit. They've got that championship pedigree. Anthony Edwards, sure.
But that just gives Cat the opportunity to take more shots.
I'm still not on the Anthony Edwards meat hook. I think people have blown his talent way over what it really is.
What if SGA gets hurt for OKC?
They're better balanced. They'll be all right for a while.
Okay, that's what Eric is.
Chet Holmgren, though, needs to kind of. It's tough to say this for a guy who's technically in his second year, being in the league 3 years, but technically it's his second year. But for Oklahoma City to probably get to the finals, Chet has to be an all-star.
And I agree with you on that. I think he has to take it to another level. I think he has to become one of the top 10 centers in the league, which I do believe he has the potential to become. So let's see if we can step it up there. But Hartenstein coming in is a big help for them. But yeah, if Chet doesn't make the jump, or if he gets hurt, that obviously would hurt them a little bit, but they do have Hartenstein to back him up. But if SGA gets hurt, no matter how much talent that they have on that team, he's still their number one player.
Presti really outdid himself in a lot of ways, getting Hartenstein and Caruso. That team is going to be a defensive wall. If they stay healthy and Chet is an all-star, it's going to be very difficult to beat Oklahoma City.
But let's say the Lakers get off.
So well balanced. They're so well balanced, and they've got the perfect skill set in each position. It's just going to come down to now the mentality. Or do you guys want to win a championship?
Plus, they have the assets to tweak anything that they need to tweak at the trade deadline.
At some point, too much tweaking and too much talent will get in the way too.
We've seen that before.
So be careful. Be careful of that, because now you got to spread the ball out. Now you got to appease more ego in those things. I think the way they're constructed right now is perfect. Chet Holmgren looks like he's not there yet in terms of, and maybe he's not ever going to be the guy that says, give me the damn ball. Shai Gilgeous is that guy. You let him be that guy. Then you got Caruso, who's the ultimate glue and team player, who's a championship player, who's a first All-NBA defender, second year this last year. Then you have someone who played in New York going to Oklahoma City, where the pressure is even less, and he's going to flourish there with Chet next to him. You're talking about a team that's just, if this team does not win a championship in the next 2 years, something's wrong.
I'm not going to disagree with you there, especially because after that, Joe, even with the number of draft picks they have, the guys on their roster start hitting extensions. And in 2 years, Joe, they become a team that could be expensive, like Boston and Phoenix. And we've already seen what happens when Oklahoma City nears that tax cut line as far as the second tax apron before, when they let go of James Harden. So, yeah, I agree with you. I think 2 years is a good window to have.
I actually think they're going to need to understand that they're going to have to pay. They want a dynasty, they're going to have to pay. And this thing is close. You're talking about Shai Gilgeous, you're talking about Hartenstein, you're talking about Dort, Isaiah Joe, Holmgren, Caruso, Jalen Williams. You've got depth, youth, a team that already was a 1 seed last year. Oklahoma City, in a lot of ways, have to probably get to the finals this year at the very least. Got to take advantage of this. I'm going to be looking at them to see what they're made of.
Well, we'll see.
Here's the other thing.
Mm-hmm.
What if Giannis wants to go leave Milwaukee? What do you do then? That's a question that's
Thank
a
you.
question that I'm going to be asking during the year.
That good question came up from JY. Joe, who's the surprise team in the West that you think can make some noise? I mentioned Memphis because remember, they're one season removed from being number 2 in the Western Conference. They get all their players healthy back. We'll see if the rookie of the year may come from Zach Edey. I mean, he's in a perfect spot for it to thrive. I know that, we thought he wouldn't be going that high. Remember, he was not even thought of in that realm until, during that draft process, evaluation process. So he is getting the chance and opportunity to be the starting center on what could be a very good team. So I'd say Memphis could be the team that I think might surprise people the most. Your thoughts on what team in the Western Conference can surprise the most?
I don't have a surprise because there's not going to be a surprise really. Houston could be the surprise, but I'm not going to be surprised if they compete.
Okay.
If you're asking me what are the chances of a team surprising, are you talking about making it to the playoffs or competing?
Competing, really competing, making a big run. Again, like even if it's like a third or fourth place team, like Sacramento a couple years ago, they came out of nowhere.
Yeah, but the NBA has kind of ruined the element of surprise because you essentially have 12 teams out of the 15 every year that are inching away at the top 10 slots. You don't really have any. What's a surprise? Oh, maybe Utah. Does Utah do what they did 2 years ago and all of a sudden play out of their minds?
Yeah, that would be a good point.
But that stuff doesn't last. And Houston has got a really good team with a really good coach. They're going to compete. They're not going to be a surprise. I'd say, if anything, I would say it would be a surprise if the Clippers end up being one of the worst teams in the West. That would be a surprise. And I say that because I'm anticipating Kawhi Leonard possibly not playing this coming year for very long, especially if they start 5-12. The motivation is going to be less and less. There'll be more noise coming out of LA saying, hey, look, maybe it's time for Kawhi to retire.
And that fancy new toilet bowl that they have there, Joe.
And imagine Minnesota finally getting to that point where they just can't seem to put it together. Are they going to have to trade Karl Anthony Towns? I had an inkling that they might have done that last year, but they played very well, so they didn't mess it up. But I don't know. I'm not saying they should, but will that work? Is the question. There's too much parity in the NBA these days. I can't really pick anybody anymore. The NBA has done a very good job in evening out the playing field. The Celtics, for the first time from an East team that I've seen since 1998, dominated from beginning to end. I don't know if they're going to be able to do that again. We'll have to wait and see.
Especially without Porzingis for the first couple months of the season.
Celtics won a championship without Porzingis last year.
Yeah, essentially. Did look good though at times for him in the playoffs when he was healthy.
Well, he helped them in game 1.
Yeah.
But what? Instead of winning in 5, they would have won in 6 probably if he wasn't playing.
Okay.
And that has a lot to do with the fact that teams did break down, especially in the East, and then Dallas made a run against really 3 teams that really let themselves down. Denver was a letdown. Minnesota was a letdown, and then Oklahoma City was a letdown to some degree. Although we saw some chinks in the armor there, and I wasn't surprised that they went down eventually.
They just didn't have enough experience. I think it was clear that they were still not ready to take that next step in OKC. So last season might have served them well as far as a learning experience and allows them to go ahead and maybe get farther this time around?
It's very difficult. It's gotten more difficult because of the run and gun type style of basketball to be engaged for 82 games. There's also this enabling of wussiness in the NBA where teams don't require players to play every game. They'll set down the young guys and they're not as conditioned. They're just not as tough, skin wise, muscle wise, and you don't know. You just don't know. It's a softer league. It's a softer environment, sports environment in general, especially in basketball, especially in baseball. And you never really know. Teams that win championships, does the hunger go away? That's a question we want to ask if Boston did it. I don't think it went away in Denver, but Denver was competitive for a while. Boston has been competitive for a while. Do they finally run out of that when you're desperate to win, like Boston and Denver were when they won the last 2 years? Once that desperation, that little desperation that takes you a little bit over that hump, once that's gone, can they manifest that again? Can they put it in their minds that, hey, we're no fluke, we're going to come back and win it, Denver? Boston, we're no fluke, we're going to go back to back. Those are the questions you want to ask.
Once again, it is the Lakers Fast Break. It is Joe Sorrell from Simblades, SimBladesWithAY.com, and he is Ox1947 at LakersBall.com, and me, Gerald Glassford. Thanks again for listening. Truly appreciate it. Before we head on out, Joe, again, this is a what-if exercise. What if everything went right for the Lakers, and those people that are really super positive on the Lakers still achieving great success this upcoming season were right, and guys like us who talk about the Lakers and watch the Lakers every single game that they are on, we evaluate them on a yearly basis, on a day-by-day basis, every single year, we're the ones that are incorrect if that's the case. And what happens if that's the case? You know what? If that's the case and the Lakers are at that level and they do get off to a great start and JJ is actually looking like a real good NBA head coach, that's another thing, Joe, that we didn't talk about. In order for the Lakers to get off to the great start, we had to talk about them finding a rotation that works, that's productive, that can go ahead and fill the inadequacies that they had last season on both ends of the floor. But also JJ Redick early has to find a rhythm as a head coach. He has to find a plan that works, find a rotation that works, and be able to showcase his skills and be able to show everyone out there that he's a coach, a good coach right away. There's no learning curve for him, or little learning curve for him, that has to take place if the Lakers get off to a good start. He has to look like he's been there and been a coach for quite some time, Joe.
You're asking someone who's never coached to coach like a championship coach. Right out the gate. I know this is supposed to be positive Monday, but this is
trying hard. I know you're like biting your teeth. Like,
it's just because it doesn't make sense. Even if this team opens up 10-10, it's not really JJ Redick's fault. How are you supposed to all of a sudden create a culture in 20 games when you've never coached before? Matter of fact, even if this year stunk, you can't really blame him. It's just not, you're not being, your credibility as, what would you call us? Are we really analysts? Are we just personalities on here? I'd like to think I'm not just a personality on here, even though that's part of it.
I think that's something we developed over time.
This isn't something, I'm not going to come on here and not have facts and things that I've seen back up what I'm saying. And we're not 100% correct. A lot of the things we say are decisions based off of what we've seen but they end up changing. But it's not by a lot. I mean, we're pretty dead on. But to think that JJ Redick is going to come in here and be Steve Kerr in 2015 is asinine. Steve Kerr inherited a championship roster at the right moment. You had a prime Steph, prime Clay, prime Draymond. And then you had 4 or 5 players on there that were young and hungry. The Lakers have a geriatric point guard who can still play. AD, who's not a killer, which hurts. And then you have 3 young guys that have deficiencies in their game in areas that the Lakers have to have figured out, or they're not going to compete for a playoff spot instead of a play-in spot. So let's go back to your positive Monday version. LeBron would have to play some defense and not lag. AD has to be a top 2 MVP candidate. Rui has to be a bona fide small forward, really good player all year. Austin Reeves has to take ball handling skills to another level and hit over 40% from 3. And then D'Angelo somehow is going to have to stop having dead games when it matters. He has to have he's got to be D'Angelo Russell consistently every game when it matters. I'm not saying he's got to hit 6 threes in those games. I'm talking he can't come into those games and only score 5 points. So if we're going to go what if, those are the things you have to take care of. Now, you also only have 5 players in that scenario. Now you need to make sure the other 3 off the bench can do what they need to do. Max Christie needs to be able to play very good defense and make open shots. Dalton Knecht's going to have to be a first-team All-NBA rookie player, type player, to help there. And Jackson Hayes has to be a bona fide backup big. I'm talking 20 to 25 minutes a game. Otherwise, AD will come up lane.
Or Koloko somehow finds something that maybe some of the promise that Toronto once saw in him.
Koloko is just a different version of Wenyen Gabriel.
Well, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that's a what if.
Wenyen Gabriel had his moments.
Yeah.
But you do know that that's his probably ceiling, those moments. NBA is not very hard to figure out. When you have a player that gets let go by a lousy team and a team that really needs a top-notch player picks them up, usually that there's only so much that player can do. You're also factoring in the pressure of LA, the fact that he's needed. It's a lot of stuff going on there. A lot of stuff.
What would your wing rotation be as far as your 2, 3, and 4?
2, 3, and 4.
Because that's somewhere again that's in question.
You have Reeves, Rui, and LeBron.
Then after that, you have Max, Dalton,
and shifting LeBron to the 1, shifting Rui to the 4. Reddish, if he can stand up long enough during the year.
No hope for Maxwell Lewis?
No. But let's say Maxwell Lewis plays great defense.
Okay.
Then maybe there's something there. But if he can't make a shot, he's just going to transfer whatever he does on defense negatively to the offense.
What if, and this is something we may have to devote an entire show to, what if JHS finally realizes the potential of that first round draft pick that the Lakers spent on him. And that he gets all those injuries aside, the back issues are no longer a factor. He becomes a competent shooter. He finds a way to play consistent defense, and he supplants Gabe Vincent as the backup point. Well, that's a big what if. I know. That's a huge what if. I know that.
Sure.
Remember,
But
year ago,
he's more going to be your 1-2 guy.
Mm-hmm.
He was supposed to emulate a D'Lo type. They were preparing, possibly trading D'Lo so that JHS could supplant him.
1 year ago, Joe, he was, according to AD, the MVP of training camp. Was that Max Christie? I think it was JHS, if memory serves. But yeah, people thought there was going to be a lot of good things coming JHS way, no matter how much he struggled in that summer, and things that we saw that were really had us concerned. There was hype coming from training camp regarding JHS, and unfortunately it never got fulfilled. And he is a first round draft pick for the Lakers, and he has to start realizing some of that potential because the calls that Joe and I have already called him on, we've been calling him a bust. We've been calling him a bust for quite a while now. And for those calls to go away, he has to start producing, Joe, and start producing this season.
How is he going to produce? He just had back surgery.
I have not heard if he's going to be not ready for. I'm assuming he's going to be ready for training camp because he's not been in the rumorville as far as not being available.
If AD had told me face to face that JHS was the MVP of training camp, the first question I would ask him, what did he do to earn that?
Good point.
And players are there to encourage and support. There's a few out there that'll go against the cuff, but too many ifs for Mr. JHS.
You won't go. That's a bridge too far, is it?
If you had gone to Bronny being the what ifs, it would have been worse. At least JHS was a bona fide.
I'm not even going there, Joe.
And I appreciate that. JHS was a bona fide college player. He actually played well in college. The problem, though, is he isn't a player that I've seen that can translate that to a very good. He was not a 17th pick in the draft. He was a second round pick. If he had been picked in the second round, it would have been better. The pressure wouldn't have and gone anywhere but the Lakers. Bad signs were all over there, by the way. That green felt jacket he was wearing on draft night told me everything.
Told you all you needed to know.
That was a bad sign. Yeah, you're wearing green, and you know you're going to get picked in the teens. Come on, dude. Get a clue. A lot of times the simplest thing will explain why. If he can shoot, if he can get lateral movement, if he can rebound, if he can create off the dribble, if he can hit a mid-range shot, and if he can stay healthy, that'd be nice.
It's a pretty big if. But yeah, I'm not even going on Bronny because, I know people would just like, oh yeah, do it so Joe can go on a rant. But again, that's a.
The rants, I've been thinking about the rants and what's going to happen here in the next few months. I'm probably not going to rant loudly There was expectations last year and the year before. If things don't go well, and we'll get into that tomorrow, is it really warranted to rant? Ranting is about something happening that shouldn't be happening. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So I'm not going to likely be ranting this year unless the Lakers start killing people and I'm basically telling the opponents, y'all better watch your ass because the Lakers are coming in town to whoop it.
Intel Wild says
it sucks because you guys have never seen me on the positive side there. I've broken people. Man, back in the day, the 2000s, man, I was destroying people. It was bad. And Shaq, the reason why I loved Shaq so much, and of course Kobe, is we've said this a few
You're
times.
awesome.
Man, those guys score 2 points, but they take your soul. What are you going to do about it? And there's a great press conference after it was the second year, the second championship run, and Kobe's there with his fro. God rest his soul, man. God dang it. And he goes, it doesn't matter how much you're inspired. Championship comes through the city of Los Angeles. He used to always say that, the city of Los Angeles. And man, Laker fans were all up there with it. I remember we would say things like, what are you going to do? What? You going to stop Shaq? With who? But he just took Dale Davis and Arvydas Sabonis and put them through a hoop. You have any idea how big Arvydas Sabonis is? You have any idea how big Dale Davis is? Dale Davis looks like he could eat walls. And he made Dale Davis look like Ty Lue with Arvydas Sabonis next to him. That's how destructive Shaquille O'Neal was. And then Shaquille would foul out, and guess who's waiting? Kobe to feed you your lunch and your shit together. You had no shot. Now imagine me talking like this to the opponent before social media. I did most of my stuff face to face.
I bet you did.
Right? What are you gonna say? Oh no, Shaq sucks. LA sucks. For the longest time, they held that Game 6 game and how the Lakers were helped by the refs. Totally oblivious to the fact that Game 5 in Sacramento was one of the worst officiated games ever as well. But no one talks about that. No one talks about Bobby Jackson literally pulling Kobe Bryant's jersey out of his shorts on the last shot in Game 5 and no call. Go watch the tape. I'm not exaggerating this. I've never seen a player get his jersey pulled out of his shorts with no call. Intel, we will get drunk together.
Intel says, Joe, we are getting drunk soon, my man. But he also dropped a super chat and became a member thanks to Xbox. So
we will get drunk. I will get drunk with you. I've been drunk once on here.
And it was a fun episode.
I've been heavily buzzed a few times, but I was drunk once. I remember because I was slurring everything.
Oh, after the show was incredibly funny. It was hilarious.
Yeah.
When we were off the air. $5 from Intel Wild. Truly appreciate the super chat. He says
for that, I am going to go get a shot because usually he has to ask me. This time I am going to offer. I'll be right back.
I stand corrected. Intel bought the membership for himself. Truly appreciate it. Again, thank you. Become a member today to get the latest emojis, latest badges, and also as well latest inside notes for the show that we give to you first and foremost. Plus, we're coming up with others cool things. A big shout outs for you as a member. It's just $2.99 a month. Intel Wild says, I'm so disappointed in this team making trades this summer. If we win 50 games, if everything goes right and the Lakers win 50 plus games this season, I'll donate 1K. Screenshot it. If you do, I cannot thank you enough for your kindness and generosity, and tell you you're such an amazing part of what we do. We're always glad when you're here, whether you're giving us one dime, nothing, $1 million, doesn't matter. We're just happy you and the rest of everybody out there are here on a regular basis. We truly appreciate it. I will be trying this soon when Joe gets his drink ready. So I will go ahead and be able to let you know whether you should go out and get a prime drink. Although it's up to your tastes. But I have tried to stay away from the Logan Paul prime drinks. I know they're heavily advertised from everything from WWE to sports venues all over. Prime. But I did get to see the other day. I was thinking to myself, all right, it's supposedly a Laker flavor hydration drink. I don't know what the flavor is because it doesn't really say what the flavor is. I'm just going to assume like maybe looks like a lemonade, like maybe a yellow lemonade type deal. So we'll see. And I'll be able to go ahead and give it a try. I'm waiting for Joe to come back here so we could try. He could have his manly man drink and I'll have the timid little prime drink. There you go. Xbox says, I don't drink that stuff much, but you can tell why it was so popular. Back in the day, I used to down Mountain Dew amps because I was doing overnight jobs. Yeah, those energy drinks, Mountain Dew amp, they were really strong. And I'll just leave it at that. Yeah, Too Hype says this towel water. Probably you're right. The only hydration drinks I guess I'm used to is Gatorade. You could probably say that's the one that's most commonly referred to out there. Is still the standard as far as what hydration drinks go to. But waiting for Joe to get his drink on, getting ready for try this. My drink, Lakers Prime out there. But once again, it is the Lakers Fast Break. You can become a member today for just $2.99 a month, and truly appreciate it if you did. Again, Xbox. Truly cannot thank you enough for all the support you give us and all the members out there, including Intel Wild. Truly appreciate him becoming a member today for just $2.99 a month. We'll provide more tiers when we get a little bit more content and stuff going for you guys on the site. But waiting for Joe to get back on the screen. But big shout out to Samir, JSJ, Kurt, Darren, Sports Baby, Richard, Bloodhound, and Xbox. And also our newest member, that would be Intel Wild. So cannot thank you enough. Too Hype says, I like vitamin water. I agree with you. I used to be pretty frequent with vitamin water. I'll give you props on that, Too Hype. There you go. A little bit of rum chata there for you.
This is a real drink, not
toilet water. It's okay. You can say it. You can say it.
Want to talk Dodgers, huh? By the way, I brought out my Steeler #1 shot glass for the night.
You know what? I think they're doing better than what you thought they would be doing right now, Joe. And here goes nothing, by the way. Lakers Prime.
Here's to you, Intel, and to all my constituents. Rum chata. Salud.
It is lemonade tasty, but not a real good flavor of lemonade.
Just imagine a kick of Captain Crunch. I'll have another one.
Coconut water's in here as well. Yeah, Joe's happy about that as far as Steelers do, but Joe Ohtani is having an incredible season. Do you think he can, despite your misgivings on who's running the team in the dugout, do you think Ohtani he can just carry this team all the way to a World Series?
That's a great question. The answer is sort of. And what I say by it sort of is Yamamoto, Flattery, and Bueller are going to have to at least keep things reasonable the first 5 innings of every playoff game. We cannot have 5-run first innings. That can't happen. And yes, Mark, I do have a bar. It's a buffet bar. On top of it is a ice machine maker, the little nuggets. and then I have my cigar humidifier. Oh, I'm sorry, humidor. And then there's a light thing that says bar on it. And then when you open the cabinet, you got all the alcohol there. This one I like to keep in the fridge, though, because I like it cold.
Subpar is correct too, Hype. So yeah, it's lemonade, but they throw a little bit coconut water. I think in here, just other flavorings. It's not vitamin water. I agree with you. Better Gatorade, better.
Jay,
I'm one and done, by the way.
Honestly, the Dodgers need to win another World Series. There's been a combination of just garbage, both self-inflicted and inflicted by the assholes in Houston and the dickheads in Boston. The Dodgers got screwed in 2017 and they got screwed in 2018 by two cheating assholes. And there was never any fallout for those guys other than the few things that they went through. But it doesn't matter. It went away, just like we all thought it would. And then Dave Roberts' affinity for putting Kershaw in bad positions in the playoffs likely cost the Dodgers probably two World Series runs. What Ohtani does in this case is he's doing two things. Because initially I wasn't really with him being a leadoff hitter. It happened after Mookie got hurt.
Yeah.
I understood that. But I thought he'd switch back to at least the second or the third in the batting order. But what the Dodgers discovered is that if you put the bottom of the order, which this is going to play a huge factor in winning the World Series too, if the bottom of the order gets on base, even if one guy gets on base, that extra guy that gets on base so that Ohtani can have that opportunity to hit, you're toast. Because what are you going to wait for, right? What you're going to wait for is Mookie Betts. And I can't tell you how many times they have walked Ohtani only to have Betts make him pay. So not only are you worried about Ohtani jacking one out with a runner on base from the bottom of the order, if you don't get Ohtani out, if you don't give him pitches, you're going to have to deal with Mookie.
Question that was asked to you by Sunday, Joe, was the 50-50 game, of course, 10 RBIs, 3 home runs, 2 steals?
It was 3 home runs, 10 RBIs, 2 stolen bases.
Yeah.
He had a single. The unfortunate part about that game is if he had just, no one expects a triple a lot of times when they're hitting, right? Had Ohtani ran hard at the beginning of that hit where he was called out at third, he would have gotten in. The throw was perfect. Even if the throw wasn't perfect, he would have got in. He would have had the cycle with 3 home runs, with 2 stolen bases. It would have been probably the greatest game at that point. Whether it's the greatest game now that I ever saw,
for me, it would be close to it.
I'm going to tell you this. I saw Mark Rodden for the Cardinals hit 4 home runs and 12 RBIs. I watched that game. I also watched the Sean Green game where he hit 4 home runs. It's pretty crazy. It's 4 home runs, 12 RBIs is nuts. I'm not going to argue against that it's the greatest game ever, but I've seen others too.
And on that note, it is the Lakers Fast Break podcast. I did have some Prime. I actually was asked by Xbox to give it a score out of 10. I gave it a 3 at best. Not the worst thing I've ever tasted as far as a drink is concerned, but something unless you guys ask me to drink it again, I will probably never go ahead and buy it.
Yeah, Prime is not good.
Yeah, it's my first prime and be my last prime.
Too hype. I'd say golf might be the hardest, and then baseball.
Really?
Yeah. Golf is really hard.
Accuracy-wise, I can understand why, yes.
Baseball, you could argue, is hard. But then again, football is hard too. The amount of pain, focus, especially if you're a quarterback, pressure. You got to deal with pain. You got to deal with the schemes. You got to deal with the speed, the size. It's hard. And then you look at basketball. You got 6'8", 6'9", 6'6", 7-footers that are running like gazelles and dunking all over you and bodying you up, shooting from freaking 35 feet like it's a layup. That's hard too. I've never played cricket, so I don't know. I wouldn't know how to judge it.
So tomorrow's show, since today we talked about what if everything goes right for the Lakers, tomorrow's show will be what if everything goes wrong. And that includes, if everything goes wrong, we'll talk about
There's been some talk. I'm sorry to interrupt.
office. We'll talk about it all on tomorrow's show. If everything.
There's been some talk that Ohtani might make an appearance pitching.
Yeah, that was mentioned last week. I think that's not good, Joe.
I actually think it's good.
I don't think so.
No one knows his body better than Ohtani. If Ohtani, imagine this scenario: 1-1 game, top of the ninth on the road. Ohtani hits a home run. They're up 2-1. And Ohtani closes the bottom of the ninth.
To pitch to one batter.
No, 3. You have to 3. I mean, you don't have to, but you pitch him. You have him take down the last 3 batters. You want to talk about legend, all this 3 home run business, 50-50. If Ohtani pitches in the playoffs and they win it all, you will not have anyone deny it after that. There's only been one player in the history of the Major League Baseball that has been able to do what Ohtani does, and that's Babe Ruth. And even Babe Ruth is quoted saying that at some point he had to stop pitching. But what a way to go out for Ohtani than to win a World Series in his first year, being a 50-50 guy, winning the MVP unanimously, obviously, for sure, and then getting this thing figured out and bringing home number 8 for the Dodgers, number 8 championship. The stories would be, and imagine if they beat either Houston or New York in the World Series. I'm torn between those two. I want revenge against Houston, but I also think there's an elegance in beating the Yankees in the World Series.
It would be a season to remember.
It would be probably the greatest Dodgers season of all their championships. Even the 55 one they won in Brooklyn, because they finally broke through. Even the 88 mastery, beating the mighty Mets and then beating the even mightier A's. I think this would be the greatest Dodger championship in their history.
I wouldn't doubt that, especially because of all the losses in the starting rotation, all the pitching issues that they've had to deal with and overcome, Joe. I would agree with you on that. I think this would be the pinnacle of Dodger seasons. And I'm saying this from somewhat of an outside perspective, as someone who was a Dodgers fan, who's now slowly getting back into being a Dodgers fan once again. I agree with you. Just the fact that they've gone through a lot of turmoil in regards to their pitching staff, Joe. I know you are not a Dave Roberts fan. I get that. And I will never try to talk you off that mountain, but the way they've been able to piece together enough and still have a season like that, Joe, would you still probably wouldn't give any credit to Dave Roberts, would you?
You have to do things to get credit. Does Dave Roberts pinch hit for a player in a particular moment and then that player come through? Does Dave Roberts put in the correct pitcher at the right moment who comes through? The one time that Roberts won a World Series, his competitor pulled a Dave Roberts, taking out a pitcher too early. And I don't give a damn what analytics, what GM is there. You want to tell me you're the skipper of this ship, and then you're going to go say, well, I got a telegram that said we had to do this. Man, I would have thrown that damn skipper out the freaking boat. Be a skipper. Nothing is black and white in anything in life except a very few amount of things. You've heard me say it before. You don't hurt children. You don't abuse women. You don't murder innocent people. Everything else is much gray. Gray like my Polly Walnut sides. So you have to go into these games understanding the moment. Analytics don't make moments. Analytics win you regular season games. They don't win you championships. And that right there, folks, if you want me to have supportive feelings for Dave Roberts is going to have to grow some donkey balls at some point and make a decision outside being told what to do. Grow some balls. Don't do what Kevin Cash did in Game 6 of the 2020 World Series. Because that's what Dave Roberts made very, very famous.
Once again, it is the Lakers Fast Break. It is Joe Soro, me, Joe Glassford. Thanks again for watching this thing. Tomorrow.
That's a good one, Hype. I told you, man. I told you. No kids. But you don't listen. Look at you now. I was just watching.
Good scene. That was a really good scene. And ultimately led to his
Al Pacino. Al Pacino, all 5'3" of them. And it's great. If you ever get a chance to watch the 10-episode series of The Offer, and I highly recommend it. It's on Paramount Plus. For those of you who like to pirate, it's out there. You can pirate it too. The apprehensiveness in putting him in as Michael Corleone because he didn't have that presence of the man, because he was this little guy. Boy, did he change that. He changed it.
And he did.
Argue he's the greatest movie star that's ever lived. He has more iconic characters than any actor in the history of film, in line with Meryl Streep.
I don't know if I can go that far, but he does have a lot of iconic roles. I'll give you that.
No one has that many iconic characters. No one. He's got, you could legitimately say he's got like 7 or 8. A lot of guys are lucky if they have 2 or 3. If they're lucky, actually 1. If you have 2 or 3, like De Niro, Stallone, hell, even Arnold's the Terminator, right?
Yes.
That's he's got 1. I mean, he's been other things, but he's known for the Terminator. Stallone is known as Rocky and Rambo. I don't know. I just think he's that guy. He's that guy. But yeah, Ohtani, the Dodgers. If Glasnow was healthy, I would feel a hell of a lot better right now, because they would have had Glasnow, Yamamoto, flattery, and then they'd have Bueller busting his ass trying to get as much as he can out of that arm. I can't criticize Bueller. He is playing his ass off. And I hope it works in the end for him, because if they had a 4-man rotation, it'd be much easier to maneuver these series.
Well, we'll see what happens.
Bobby Miller's been the biggest disappointment to me this year. Absolutely just dog shit. Unfortunate. But the bullpen is starting to come around again. Trying his stuff is starting to get filthy again. We have a closer. It's they just need 5 to 6 innings from their starters without complete collapse. No 5-run innings, please, in the first couple innings. That has to stop. They've been doing that the last couple of years, and it's absolutely destroyed them for the whole series. Only won 1 playoff game in 2 series. That's terrible. They've won 200 before this season. They won 222 games, all to win 1 goddamn playoff game in those 2 years. That's pathetic. Cannot let that happen.
Once again, it is the Lakers Fast Break. It's Joe Soro along with me, Jared Bassford. Thanks again for watching this thing. We'll be back tomorrow to talk about what if everything went wrong for the Lakers. How bad of a dumpster fire could it be? So we will talk about that scenario tomorrow, like we talked about if everything went right today. If you have questions, LakersFastBreak@yahoo.com, or put the comments below on YouTube if you're watching this after we're done. So go ahead and give us a big shout out there. Or again, Lakers Fast Break on Twitter, Lakers Fast Break wherever you get your social media, and LakersFastBreak@yahoo.com. So for Joe Sorrell, Mr. Simblades with a Y.com, it is me, Gerald Passford. Thanks again for watching this thing. We'll be back tomorrow for more fun and comments. No prime drinks this time, because that, again, 3 out of 10. It was tower water. I think, I think what was said in the chat, it was tower water. But no prime for me. But we'll be back for more with some snacks for you with the Lakers Snack Pack right here at the Lakers Fast Break Podcast.